Welcome to the first VATRP Town Hall. I'm Roger Vass, and I'm from TCS Associates. We have 5 panelists with us tonight, and I want to thank them for their participation. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Christian Vogler. I am the Director of the Technical Access Program based here at Gallaudet University.
Hello, my name is Gary Beam, and I'm from the Rochester Institute of Technology, NTID. I'm the Director for Center on Access Technology.
Hello everyone, I'm Phil Aiello, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at TCS Associates. We provide a comprehensive list of services and assistive technology for over 35 years.
Hello, I'm Greg Leibach. I am from the Federal Communications Commission's Disability Rights Office, and I am the Chief of DRO. I'd also like to introduce Alok Doshi. Alok is sitting behind me here and has just come on board at the FCC to oversee the contract for the VATRP to ensure that we meet all of the requirements outlined therein. I want to welcome Alok here as well. Hello, my name is Peter Hayes. I am the CEO for VTC Secure. I've been working in video relay services for about 10 years, and I formed a company, VTC Secure, 3 years ago with the goal of improving communications access for all.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Now, you may be wondering more about our panelists. I'll let you know that their full bios are on the Facebook page. What is VATRP? You can go there and learn more about them. You may be wondering what VATRP is. We've got a short video to explain it.
Telecommunications Relay Services, commonly called TRS, involves such services as VRS, IP relay, and caption phones. Over the past 30 years, telecommunications relay services have evolved and improved tremendously. Our team is excited to have been asked by the FCC to take telecommunication access to the next level. FCC asked a company named VTC Secure to work on this project, and they will do so with the support of their 3 partners. Those partners are TCS Associates, Gallaudet University, and RIT NTID. Together, they will deploy a new software app for VRS calls. The app will allow users to make VRS calls with one number through any VRS provider. The app will also allow point-to-point calls for people to communicate without VRS. The purpose of this app is to set a standard by which all video phones and video phone apps provided by VRS providers will follow. The intent is to improve compatibility between all video phones. It will also improve compatibility between VP apps created by VP providers. The app is also expected to allow direct VP calls between deaf and hard of hearing individuals and American Sign Language or ASL call centres. So what will an ASL call centre do? It will allow select government, public and private entities to provide direct services to their consumers without the need for relay service. Back in the 1990s, there were two separate phone numbers, one for the phone and one for TTY. As TTYs have become obsolete, however, calls have been made through relay service. The ASL call centres will give you the opportunity to make direct calls again without the need for relay services. The VATRP will be hosting and participating in community outreach within the deaf community, with interpreters, and with the TRS industry. VATRP will be asking you what should be included and how you want the app to work. VATRP wants you to give feedback, as this project will affect you. We value your input and really want to work together. This will improve telecommunication relay services. Thank you.
Outstanding. I do want to clarify one point. This is not a video relay service. This is a software app. We are also delighted that the NAD is in support of the VATRP project. And we've got a video to explain that. Hello, my name is Howard Rosenblum. I'm from the National Association of the Deaf. I'd like to take a moment to explain the NAD's support for the reference platform. The reference platform is a fantastic development because it will ensure that all VPs are interoperable. VP calls will work with each other regardless of which brand company you have. The VP calls will connect seamlessly, will not disconnect, and all of the features will be fully interoperable, including things like video mail. We thank the FCC for requiring this reference platform, and we look forward to seeing its implementation. We look forward to the day where we don't have to worry about which VP to use when making phone calls. In addition, that platform means that we'll be able to call any government agency and connect directly to their ASL representative. The reference platform makes it possible to have this direct communication without going through a third party. So these incredible features are going to be possible thanks to the reference platform. The ability to make direct phone calls and connect with any video phone, and the ability to speak directly to the government agencies. I look forward to seeing that happen. Thank you. Outstanding. Before we go ahead with the questions, I want to let the audience at home know that you have the opportunity to ask questions as well. You can tweet your questions to @WhatIsVATRP. Once we're done with our set of questions, we'll take questions from the audience, time dependent. Christian, I'd like to ask you, why is there a need for the VATRP?
Thank you for that question. There are really two predominant reasons for the need of VATRP. The first is interoperability, and the second is empowerment of our community. So let me speak to those two concerns. Interoperability basically means that a company who makes a video phone with its software, needs to be able to communicate with other companies and their software. That has not been the case to date. There have been a multitude of problems. I am a VRS user and have been so frequently for quite some time, and often come across barriers when looking between video phones made by different companies. So in collaboration with a colleague, Norman Williams, we undertook testing and research to see what the issues were with interoperability within all of the video phones made by the various manufacturers. What we found is that a good 50% of calls do not function effectively. Either the screens are black, they're pixelated, the messages can't be left, etc. And the features that are designed to work don't. Phones don't ring, lights don't flash, etc. So that led us to start talking to members of the deaf community to see what their concerns were, and to remind the VRS industries that 50% of calls being ineffective is not sustainable. We have seen some minuscule improvement from the industries in response to those concerns, but insufficient to our way of thinking. So again, when you look at mainstream telephones and technology, what they tend to do is use a reference platform. The purpose of that reference platform is to allow testing for interoperability and to see where the issues lie and where responsibility may lie. So we believe the same standards should exist for the video relay services as well. So in talking to the FCC, we put up a proposal for a reference platform, which is the VATRP, to solve those interoperability issues. So that's the first reason why we need this reference platform. The second reason is related to the deaf and hard of hearing communities. It is not a homogeneous group, which must be recognised. There are deaf people, hard of hearing people, those with mobility issues, people who are deaf blind, etc. And so in order to accommodate all of those needs, some challenges exist within VRS and within the video phone companies. Efforts are good, but we have not yet met the needs for all of these varied members of our community. So we've looked at what some of the problems are and seen what some features could be that would be very much value added. For example, looking at people who are deaf-blind, figure out ways that they can access in a more tactile way, etc. Looking at what those varying individuals want from the service. The creation of the VATP opens up the possibility for this reference platform that allows people to use open source code, fix individual issues pertaining to their particular needs, and install those features for themselves. And that is incredibly empowering for the deaf community at large. So the ability to have those features and options and allowing them to use VRS continually and working with the VRS companies in that vein. So the creation of such an app, I believe, will lead to the sustainability and success of VRS for consumers.
Thank you for that wonderful explanation. Gary, the next question is for you. What kind of impact do you foresee the VATRP having on the relay service industry?
Hi, thanks, Roger. I do see a large impact that VATRP could have as a software platform. If we envision this platform as the plumbing system in your house, we know that everyone can use the same type of system, the same type of plumbing within houses. But within the telecom industry for deaf people, we have no standard. We have no common plumbing system. And so I really see three areas that could be impacted by this new platform. The first is the VRS providers. The second is IP relay. And the third is caption telephone. And I see all of those as needing the same basic plumbing. That would certainly improve the interoperability problem that Christian just spoke to. And I think that VATRP has the potential of improving all three of these services because they'll all be lying on that common platform, that common plumbing that I've been talking about. Higher quality services from the VRS providers is certainly necessary, and I think that VATRP has the potential of effectuating that.
Interesting. Phil, what sort of impact will the VATRP have on the deaf and hard of hearing community?
It'll impact the community in several very significant ways. First, it'll be empowering to the community, as Christian mentioned just a moment ago. We'll be able to bring the deaf community together and get them involved in the development of this app. The app belongs to all of you. It's your app. And so we'll be designing a product that's based on what you tell us you'd like. And so we're going to involve everyone in the development process. We're going to be establishing a variety of focus groups. We'll have young people. We'll have people who are techies and love computers and have ideas about the features they'd like to have involved. We'll have senior citizens groups. There are senior citizens who may be more reluctant to experience change. And so we'll have these focus groups all across the country to collect feedback on the features that the community would like to have in the app. Because the goal of this app is to make communication much easier and relaxing and user-friendly to all of you. And so when you tell us how to design the program, it's so that when you go in, you don't have to really worry about using the software. That the software is just plug and play. The fact that you can just start it up and use it and make your phone call. There are other features like not having to worry about your phone book. When I change VRS providers, my phone book doesn't travel with me. And so with the new app, the phone book will travel with them. And so the VATRP will use V cards, and so the phone book information will be able to travel with them from one use of the software to another. And so your feedback is really critical to the development of this product. Our engineers are developing it for you to use.
I absolutely agree. Gary, now to you. How will the VRS companies be involved in this project? Gary?
Well, certainly the VRS industry will be involved in this project, from testing interoperability, certainly making sure that calls can be placed from one provider to another, but also getting feedback from the deaf community. They've had a lot of experience with VRS over the years, and I think that experience is invaluable for us to harness when we are developing this platform. And certainly to be looking at problems that might arise as we test the platform that we end up developing. I think one great thing about this platform is that it's going to be open source, which means that the public can have access to it and is not proprietary to any one organization. So we certainly are going to be relying on the public's feedback and involvement in order to make everything work out for the best. It's really a win-win situation for everyone.
Thank you. Phil, what impact will this project have on deaf people with additional disabilities?
Well, first I'd like to explain that currently the apps that are being used when people sign across the internet or they use text information across the internet, that information is not encrypted. The call can be eavesdropped upon. And so the new VATRP will be use an encrypted signal. And so all of your communication will be secure. So that's the main way. The second way is that people will have the ability to use one app. So the VATRP is just a sole app, and then you'd be able to choose the VRS provider that you'd like to use for that particular phone call. And then the next day you could select a different VRS provider. And you'll be able to do all of that while still using the same phone number. You'll also be able to use real-time text across VATRP. And it'll be like the old days when you had used a TTY to use teletext. And that's attractive for people who prefer to type and don't know how to sign. There are people who became deaf later in life and who don't use sign language. They would prefer to type through VATRP, and they're able to communicate with one another in real time. And as the person is typing on their side, the person on the other side sees it right away. Also, people like me who use sign language, if you want to transmit a phone number or an address or something like that, you can just type it on the screen. Once you type that information, it's also saved. And it's possible that when the app is released in the coming year, your hearing friends, their family members, they'll be able to get a copy of the application as well. And they can use that to communicate directly to you instead of using video relay. Also, businesses will be able to acquire the application and use it as part of their normal business practices. They can hire deaf people, and so that we as consumers can call directly into their companies without going through VRS to receive services just like hearing people do. And it'll be functional equivalents for deaf people. We'll have equal access to phone communication just like hearing people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Greg, I have been hearing some talk in the community about job opportunities. What does that mean exactly?
Sure, Roger. I'd be happy to talk about how the VATRP can create job opportunities, particularly for deaf and hard of hearing individuals. There are 3 ways that I see that happening. The first is the development and implementation of this product, which is going to allow for direct video communication, as has been earlier explained, that isn't going to involve video relay service, but is instead direct point-to-point video calling. Right now, there is no product that exists to fill this niche. This is going to allow for call routing, meaning if you can't reach someone at the first phone number you are calling, you will be routed to the next available agent. If no one is available, you can be routed to an answering service. It's essentially call center functionality. That exists in VRS contexts, but not in direct video contexts. So at the moment, we are limited to only what is available in the marketplace. The FCC has implemented an ASL consumer support line at our headquarters, and direct video has so many benefits in improving customer satisfaction, providing a job opportunity, in our case for one deaf call taker who's answering inquiries, taking complaints, and dealing with consumers on complicated issues. Because this deaf call taker is able to culturally identify with the caller, they're much easier able to explain important issues and relate to the problems that the callers are facing. The VATRP is going to be able to be implemented anywhere. Private businesses, federal agencies that could implement their own direct ASL consumer line and then hire deaf or hard of hearing call takers. You can imagine a big company like Amazon hiring a direct ASL consumer support specialist so that when your delivery doesn't arrive on time, you can call in direct and ask your question in ASL. And when they tell you that it's coming next week, you can just hang up your call. No relay service needed. The second way that we see this happening is, for example, a garage. Now you may be confused about this, but we're thinking about some people who may be interested in putting together a new product, whether it be point-to-point or video relay service product, in the same way that some of these computer systems have been developed in people's garages. We are now going to have an open source product that will allow for deaf or hard of hearing individuals to make use of the open source code to put something together themselves. They're going to be able to use the open source platform as a starting point and create their own job opportunities inside the deaf community using their own innovative ideas. Third, the VATRP is going to allow for testing, evaluation of not only video relay service, but interpreting quality. That does not exist right now. But because this product is community owned, the community can then undertake an effort to evaluate interpreters, and deaf people are the ones who are going to have the eye to evaluate the skill and quality of interpreting services. We have certainly received some complaints that the quality of video relay service interpreting is fairly hit or miss, and the VATRP is going to allow a new way for testing of those services and the quality of the interpreting that you receive. The VATRP is not the end-all, be-all solution, but it is one solution for our direct video, job opportunities, and interoperability problems. Again, it's not a panacea, but it is the first step on the way to an improved relay service system that includes job opportunities for deaf and hard of hearing Americans. And we'll make sure that we're keeping on top of the technology for VRS and point-to-point calling. It's obviously a game changer.
It certainly is. Peter, I'd like to ask you, how will the community be involved in the VATRP project?
The goal is to involve everyone. When we first saw the contract, we realized that we had to have community involvement in the design of this product. It needed to be designed for deaf people by deaf people. That's the only way that it could work. First thing we realized was when Christian Vogler came up with this idea, the whole concept, was that we needed his help to work on this contract. RIT, we knew, was the best technical university in the country, and we absolutely needed their involvement as well. TCS is an outstanding technology company with 30 years of experience and is deaf-owned. As we move forward, we're trying to involve everyone, CSD, NAD, and users and interpreters. We also need input from providers, and really everyone. I think it's also important to get input from other parts of the community, like deaf-blind individuals, deaf individuals with low vision. One of the good things about having an open source project is that we can change the user interface for anyone's needs. So that's a real big advantage that we have. So right now, we really need more input from the community. There's a website, and we're going to set up, in addition to the website, other ways you can tell us what you want this product to do and how you want it to work. VTC Secure is here to serve the community. So you design it, we'll develop it. Thank you.
Wonderful. We do have questions from the Twitterverse. And this is an open question. Jarvis Grindstaff asks, which operating system will support the VATRP? Gary?
I can answer that. With the contract that we have between us and the FCC, we have agreed to focus on the iOS platform, OS X, which is the Mac desktop platform, the Android platform, and, there was a fourth one. Which one? Windows, to focus on the PC platform. Of course, we want to add more down the line, but at the moment we're going to be focusing on these 4 platforms to begin with to make sure that our interoperability starts off there. We're going to take a very aggressive schedule to make sure that we're able to get this app out, hopefully by the next year in the summertime. And beyond that, we'll move into other operating systems.
Also, I'd like to add one more thing. Service for the iPhone will be included. And the really nice thing about the app is that we're trying to make the app look very similar across all platforms. So whether you're using it on a PC or a Mac or in your iPad or in your Android device, the app will look very similar. And the reason is to make it just much more user-friendly. We don't want you to select the device you use based on how the app works. So we want the app to work similarly across all platforms.
Jack from California sent a question in. He's wondering, what's the difference between VATRP and the SBA announcement that just happened last week? Open question for the panelists. Greg?
That is a good question. The Small Business Administration is now offering direct video communication services, very similar to what the FCC offered starting last year. And we are expecting more federal agencies to start offering this service in the months to come, allowing you, as I explained earlier, to directly connect on a point-to-point call to a deaf individual working at that agency to answer your questions, take your complaints or inquiries. Right now, the product that SBA is using is provided by a VRS company, a VRS provider. It is not off-the-shelf technology. It meets the needs for direct point-to-point calling, but it doesn't have those other features I mentioned earlier, like call routing, video mail, or menus, push 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, etc., those types of navigation menus that you're accustomed to. We're looking for a product that has those features, and right now the FCC and the SBA are using products from VRS providers rather than something like the VATRP.
We've got another question from Jarvis Grindstaff. And his question is, when will the VATRP app be available, and what are the plans for testing? Peter?
The goal is to start beta testing in 4 months. We will have a website, vatrp.org, where everyone can download, test, and play with the app themselves, and then provide their feedback to the group developing it. So we have the university's students who we expect to be testing it. We're going to have providers testing it. And the hope is that we have as many people as possible, as many people who want to download it, try it out, test it, and get back to us with their feedback.
Okay. Stephen Persinger sends in a question asking, how will VRS providers be able to compete after a reference platform has been developed? Open question, gentlemen. Phil?
We'd like to make things very clear. The VATRP is not to compete with VRS providers or VRS apps. The purpose of establishing this is to create a standard so that other video phones and other VRS providers will make devices that are compatible. It's not to compete with them. So you'll be able to keep your current video phone app and use your sole provider if you'd like to. Or you can use the VATRP app and then have choice. If you want to stay with your old provider, you're welcome to do that. But that app has to be compatible with VATRP because this is going to be a reference platform that sets the standard. It'll be very similar to the old days when we had modems that used a modem board that was installed into a computer. Those needed to communicate with one another, and they didn't. And so the FCC established ITU standards that said that those modems had to be compatible. And so the same principles at work with the VATRP. It's to make these compatible with one another.
I believe that Christian wanted to add something to answer this question.
You're correct, Phil, and I agree with the comments that you've made. In addition, I would add that VATRP is designed really to help VRS companies. And it will do that in the following ways. Assume there's a VRS company who's bought software. So they have Merrill, for example. That software license may soon expire, meaning the company who owns the software will cease to support it. There are some VRS companies now who are a little anxious about that turn of events. So the VATRP, in a sense, will solve those kinds of issues by giving VRS providers some other alternatives. So when the VRS providers adopt the VATRP, they will have that common background instead. So, and I reiterate Phil's point, we're not here to compete with VRS at all.
Greg, did you want to add to what Christian said?
Yes, thank you, Roger. Christian makes a great point that I agree with wholeheartedly, and I want to add another point as well. As you know, your phones from time to time upgrade their operating systems, be they Android or iOS. Those upgrades can often cause problems with interoperability. In video relay services, you have from time to time had no problem with interoperability, and then the next day you're having problems with your calls. VRS providers are either adding to or upgrading their apps and their software in the very same way that those other operating systems do. And so, there's a need for communication between providers about when those upgrades are taking place to ensure that those new upgrades and advancements are interoperable with other companies, so that we are not taking one step forward, two steps back. The VATRP is going to be the test bed for any of these new upgrades, so that as a new company is developing new technology, they're going to ensure that it is compatible with the VATRP before it is released, and in that way, all of the companies will be interoperable with one another in the same way that Phil pointed out.
Very interesting. We've been sent another question. Dana Mulvaney asks, will this app provide tight synchronization between audio and video? It's an open question. Christian?
Okay, to address that question, let me give you a little background. Oftentimes, for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, they like to be able to hear the audio and see the video at the same time, but that can be a challenge in terms of the synchronicity when looking through a video phone. Oftentimes, the video is delayed, and that can adversely impact communication. So that said, with the VATRP contract, it stipulates that VRS will support IP relay and caption telephones in addition. So the VATRP contract includes all of those services, aiming to meet the needs, which are diverse, of the deaf and hard of hearing community. That said, at Gallaudet University, part of our testing will specifically look at audio and video synchronicity as part of that. So part of our feedback to this overall contract will be along the lines of having audio-video synchronicity. Thank you.
James from Maryland asks, once the VATRP develops a set of software apps, does that mean I will no longer have access to my preferred app? Greg?
It's a short answer, and the answer is no. You can still retain all the options that were available to you before of the different providers' applications and devices. The VATRP is simply an additional choice on that menu and is not going to cause you to lose access to your existing apps. And I want to again emphasize that VATRP is being implemented to ensure the standards for any of these apps and devices are going to be maintained, not to reduce competition, but to allow for more competition in the marketplace and more innovation, particularly because the project is open source. Any ideas can come from the community rather than only coming from providers of VRS. So by providing your feedback, you are helping to innovate in VRS and improve the service. More innovation means more competition and more consumer choice. So we're going to see an increase in competition and choice, not a decrease.
Thank you. Another question, Sarah from Virginia is wondering, will 911 be supported? Peter, can you speak to that?
The answer is yes. It is required as part of our contract. And we plan to add options to the program wherein a user's location can be placed inside the call setup. So the operator already will know where the caller is. That is a requirement.
Another question. What about my experience with black screens and other problems when I call other VP users? Is this going to solve that issue? Gary, can you answer that?
Yes, that is indeed the goal. That's actually one of the reasons why we decided to set up the VATRP. That standardization of the way that calls are connected will in fact allow calls to be connected more reliably. And we do set as a goal a reduction in the number of black screens that you see over time.
Someone writes in, I'm a techie. What about the in-depth compatibilities and compliances? Where can I find information about that? Christian?
So I am possibly the original geek on this panel, and all things technical in that regard seem to come to me. Where the VATRP is concerned, we want the ability for phones to call one another. That basically happens through the SIP protocol. So that's the element that allows the connectivity. So it will be SIP supported via H.234 and H.264, and H.263. And also through VP8 codecs. It will also be audio supported by G.711, which is the voice activated part. We know that that has not been incredibly effective to date, but looking at G722 is looking at higher quality audio input as well to ensure that we have access for those who have residual hearing so that it is completely accessible. We're also looking in the future to add real-time text. I think Phil mentioned that briefly earlier, and it basically works on a standard for RFC.4103, and that will also be supported through encryption. So TLS will be supported. And SRTP. So that whole thing will be an awful lot of work, obviously, but fortunately, when we have a standardized platform, like Linphone, with the open source element, all of these can be built into it. So VoIP development, etc., is already part of what all of that can look like before release.
Wow, that's in depth. Well, Jared Evans sent in a question, wondering, once he downloads the app, what additional steps must a company do in order to offer customer service via video? Looks like Peter can answer the question.
First, a company is going to need to buy their own platform to route these calls. They will also need to set up a number in the ITRS system so that when a video phone is making a call to that number, it is going to get to their deaf-to-deaf platform instead of going through video relay service. After that, they will certainly need to download the VATRP and connect that to their internal platform so that they can be able to accept calls. It's also important that companies understand that they need training to provide opportunities to give job advancement for managers and directors in this service and other positions. They need to find ways to set up an awesome environment for the employees who are working there and ensure they're trained well so that everyone understands how they can provide excellent service.
Thank you. Another question from Gabriel, wondering, will the VATRP have an answering machine function? Peter?
In the beginning, no. Most of the time, video mail is an option available from your VRS provider. When your video phone rings and isn't answered, the provider's server is then going to route that unanswered call to their video mail service. That is not something that will change. But all video mail will need to be interoperable. You will have to be able to call any video mail service from any provider through the VATRP.
And Christian would like to add a comment. Please do.
I'd just like to add a note of clarification. For most video phone mail, it will often work straight out of the box. But maybe initially what we will see is some preliminary issues that arise. But our expectation is that they can be sorted out and solved prior to release.
Thank you. Jarvis Grindstaff is wondering, what about customer service? Who will I call? And Phil will answer.
TCS Associates' goal is to establish several things. First is an outreach group. Second, we'll establish technical support. And third, we'll establish customer service. All of the staff in those departments will be deaf. And our goal is to hire a predominant number of deaf people to run each of those work groups.
Oh, Greg, would you like to add something?
Yes, along the same lines as what Phil just mentioned. As you know, we are at the point now of starting working on this product. Once the product is available for direct video communication, it will also come with a package. That package is the cookbook, the guidance that one would need an agency or a business to implement direct video service. So it's not only the product, but also that cookbook that you can follow in order to implement a service. The FCC is right now working on developing the cookbook portion of that package.
Thank you for that answer. We have a follow-up question from Dana Mulvaney, and she's directed it towards Christian. You're looking at incorporating HD voice, right? That will help many people.
In short, yes. HD quality voice will help a lot of people. It will improve quality.
Thank you. Another question from Dana Mulvaney, wondering, will this app support multiple participants? In other words, teleconferencing. The question is, is this app going to support multiple people on a call at the same time? Peter?
Initially, no, because that is something that requires a lot of processor power, and we want to make sure that everything is working right with the core program first. We can communicate with MCUs, multi-conferencing units, because that is a standard. Can now communicate with many MCUs. So you could join a meeting that consists of up to 20 people at the same time, but not on the app itself.
Thank you. A final question that many people are wondering, if they can keep their current cell phone number for the VATRP platform. Peter?
Yes. The VATRP is not going to, of itself, distribute phone numbers. You're going to retain your existing phone numbers. And you will be downloading the app and putting in your username and password and selecting your provider from a list of available providers. That will then automatically attach the app to your provider and will work just like it used to when you were using the provider's app.
Wonderful. Thank you. We've actually reached the end of our time. I'd like to thank the panelists and thank the interpreting team for making tonight possible. And of course, we want to thank Gallaudet University for allowing us to use the studio space. Thank you to the team here at Gallaudet. Now, this video is going to be posted to the Facebook page and the website for What is VATRP. If you'd like to get more updates, we will have more booths at various conferences and town halls to come. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for more updates at What is VATRP. Now, if social media is not your thing and you'd like to get a newsletter, we have an option for you. Go to the website, www.whatisvatrp.com, and you will see an area where you can offer feedback or make comments, and another area where you can subscribe to emailed newsletters. We'll keep you updated that way. Thank you so much for participating in tonight's town hall. Have a good evening.